Good evening, everybody, and good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast, which is where our guest is tonight. So good evening, good afternoon, and good day to you all, and a good day it's been. A rarity in the past few weeks and few months, so we're thrilled to have our guest with us tonight because she will have unique perspectives on what's happened today and yesterday, and we're very excited to have that conversation. But before that, as always, we have old business to clear out. So first and foremost, allow me to introduce myself to those of you unfamiliar. My name is Robert Seda Schreiber, and I am the chief activist of the Bayard-Rustin Center for Social Justice, and proud to hold that title and to be here tonight at our virtual headquarters. Welcome to the Social Justice Power Hour, where every weeknight from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 to 5 Pacific, we join together in virtual camaraderie, in remote fellowship, and we share time, we share community, and we just make sure that we are all taking care of one another in conversation and in spirit and energy. As my colleague Haley likes to say, it is the power hour, but we bring the power. No, we bring the hour. You all bring the power. Our community brings the power, and that's the truth. No matter how extraordinary our guest stars are, and each and every one is extraordinary, what's more extraordinary is that we have all of you joining us, hundreds of folks every night, sharing this time, and we are honored that you allow us the privilege of sharing this time with you, and we thank you for it. I want to also thank Izzy, who is an inspirational high school student who organized the George Floyd vigil last night in Cranberry, New Jersey, which we were honored to be a very small service in helping to organize. Izzy organized this and did such incredible work. There are hundreds of people gathered with us last night in Cranberry, which is a small town, and we had so many folks show up, and it was pretty phenomenal, and we were thrilled with the people who came and spoke, with the community that came to join us. It was truly an inspirational evening. Friends, allies, comrades, co-conspirators, all in all, it was an extraordinary evening that we will not soon forget. And these are the moments that keep us together, my friends, that allow us to share this time, that allow us to move forward, because we have to make sure that all the difficulties we're seeing now, we are, of course, over 3 months into a pandemic of corona, and now faced with the ever-present epidemic of institutional racism. And these are things that we can and will persevere. The pandemic is about being safe and smart, wearing our masks, not going out too soon, and making sure we're taking care of our neighbors. With the epidemic of racism, it's about making sure that this moment that's so empowering and so incredible, these rallies and these protests and these vigils, they're not just moments. They have to be a movement. And we saw that yesterday with huge Trans Lives Matter rallies all across the nation, from coast to coast. And we'll talk about that as well. But before we do that, let's talk about this week. We have amazing guests. Tonight we have Rain Valdez, transgender actress and filmmaker, founder of ActNOW. We have so much to talk about, so I promise I'll stop talking soon. But I'm so excited about what we can bring to you. Tomorrow night we have queer yoga. As always, Master Jasmani brings us to such incredible places, both personally. He started to share his stories and what he perceives as how his body reacts to masculinity and perceived notions of masculinity, and how our identities inform how we move. And it's been an amazing couple of weeks of queer yoga. We've, I think, transcended to a new phase of what that means, and it's pretty phenomenal. I'm inspired by what Jasmani is doing. Wednesday is incredible. We have Walter Nagel, Bayard-Rustin's partner, joined by Senator Scott Wiener, who was the man who spearheaded Bayard-Rustin's pardon. We're also joined by Senator Bradford. We just found out, so we're very excited about that. Senator Bradford will be joining us as well. And then Charlotte Clymer will be with us on Thursday night incredible woman. Used to work with Human Rights Campaign, Army vet, writer, and we're going to have some stories to talk about on Thursday. And then Friday, something super special. On Friday, we're going to have Virtual Pride Eve. As you all know by now, Saturday is our incredible Virtual Pride, which we expect to have tens of thousands of people joining us that night. We have some super surprise guest stars, I promise you that. But more importantly, we know that this is a moment where we have to have that delicate balance of celebrating how far we have come, but also recognizing how far we have yet to go. Friday night, we're going to start off by celebrating last year's Princeton Pride Parade, which was the first ever in Princeton. We're so proud that we were able to do it, and we're going to share highlights from that. Our volunteers have been amassing footage from that, and we can't wait to show it to you. So there'll be an hour's worth of highlights to prepare you for Virtual Pride the next day. Also, we have coming to you later in the month, we have Darnell Moore, wonderful author of No Ashes in the Fire. So excited to have him with us. We have our own Lieutenant Governor, Sheila Oliver, joining us as well. So we're very excited about that. We have Liz Winstead, the co-creator of not only The Daily Show, but Air America as well. So thrilled about that. We also have coming to you, Eric Cervini, author of The Deviants War, The Homosexual versus the United States of America. Thrilled about having him join us as well. We just found out he'll be gracing the virtual stage. So please join me in welcoming him later in the month. And last but certainly not least, we have Ibram X. Kendi joining us. We're thrilled and honored to have someone of his import joining us. His book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, is the nation's top #1 bestseller, and he just released this new book, Anti-Racist Baby, which comes out next week, and we're thrilled that we'll talk about that with him as well. So all that's coming up, and it's all very exciting, but all of that is nothing compared to this. Our guest tonight, Rain Valdez, is with us all the way from California. Rain, thank you so much for being with us. We're so thrilled to have you this night especially.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're so stop. You're gonna make me get all blushy. What a great moment for you to be with us, because this journey and these last 2 days especially are so meaningful for you, aren't they? You know, from yesterday, the rallies, you were present at one in Los Angeles. We had one over here in Brooklyn, and then today's Supreme Court decision. Can you tell us how that makes you feel and what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a roller coaster ride of emotions, because it actually started a lot earlier than this weekend, with 2 Black trans women being murdered, J.K. Rowling's transphobic rampage on Twitter, and then, you know, the reversing of the Obamacare rights to protect healthcare for LGBTQ folks, which happened Friday. So all of that was happening up until the protests this weekend, and so I was very angry. I kind of started off my weekend being very, very angry, and just kind of at a loss of how to feel and what to do, because we're in the pandemic, and you know, I'm only limited to what I could actually be doing physically. But then, you know, yesterday, going to the march and seeing so many people, and seeing, you know, Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard, you know, the grand muralized with All Black Lives Matter was very, very inspiring. The colors of the trans flag was on the word all. And then just seeing, you know, so many people with signs that said Black Trans Lives Matter and Protect Black Trans Women was very inspiring, because you know, we've been doing this for so long. The community has been doing this for so long. Whenever a sister is slain, we you know, we gather and we activate and we protest, but it's always these small pockets of us, of just people within the community. And to see it have grown so much was really warmed my heart. It's you know, to see the scope of it. And you were saying, like, in New York City, and I saw footage of, it was about, you know, between 10 to 15,000 people at the Brooklyn Liberation, all chanting, you know, Black trans lives matter. And so, and then, you know, to wake up this morning with the Supreme Court ruling was just, you know, added to the wanting to celebrate and wanting to keep going, really, because today for me feels like a rest day. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like you work out every day and you get like a rest day sort of peppered in throughout. And so today kind of felt like you know, one of the most, you know, peaceful days I've had in a few weeks now. And seeing, you know, some form of good news online. As soon as I logged on my, you know, my Instagram and my Facebook, it was all of these messages of good news. And so it was a very winning moment today. And I'm definitely at home just kind of celebrating and just taking this as a win and taking it as a rest day, because we do need to rest and recharge because there's still so much work ahead of us.
Yeah, that's really an important question and consideration for us here too at the center. But before we get into that, I do want to address that specifically. How do we create, and I said it before, make sure this doesn't just become a moment and it's a movement. And, you know, and I don't want that to be a catchphrase, but I want to make sure that people understand this has happened before, maybe not in such an exponential way, but there have been times in our history where people have gotten motivated and then it's faded. I don't want this to be something that the media talked about for a week or even a month and then it dissipated again. I want to make sure that we carry this forward. But before we do that, I really want to talk about you, because you've created a microcosm of this community in your own space. And I want to talk about that for our people so they understand what you've done and where you're coming from. And I also want to just briefly remind all our folks that are watching that please do feel free to ask questions, to make comments, to give snaps, you know, virtually. We love to hear from you, and especially it shows, you know, our guests that, you know, you're out there and you appreciate what they're saying and who they are. So please feel free to join in the conversation if I ever stop talking long enough to let you do that. But tell us, so what I was saying is, because I know of your work and I'm inspired by it, you created this piece called ActNOW, which is part of a larger piece. And can you, better than me, talk about it? You're right here. So can you tell us about what that was and what motivated you to do so?
So about a few years ago, I, you know, had a few acting credits and things kind of slowed down. Was working, and I felt like there was something missing, you know, within the industry, but also like within my life. I was looking for a more artistic community within, you know, my surroundings here in LA, and there wasn't very much. So I started Now More Than Ever, which started out as an artist collective where we all gather and we would do emotional check-ins, and then we would read scripts out loud. And the script, the only criteria we had was that it was written by an LGBTQIA POC or female or woman person. So, you know, it had to be centered within our community and written by and for. And we started reading these scripts and doing it bi-monthly, twice a month, and then it just kept growing. And then we turned into we eventually transitioned to a production company where we started creating content. Our first one was Razor Tongue, which is out now on YouTube. Season 1 is out now. It's a 7-episode web series. And we did sort of like a PSA thing called Lit Girl, where a bunch of trans women talked about their experiences with dating and kind of debunking some myths about dating a trans woman. And then we did a fantasy calendar where we featured, a multicultural trans women and gave them a month. So we showcased like 12 trans women, and they had their own spread. And then the what you're talking about is Act Now, which branched out from Now More Than Ever about 2 years ago. I wanted. I think it started out when when Scarlett Johansson was casted as a trans man in Rub and Tug, and there were so many trans men in the industry that could have easily had done that role, and so we all kind of went up in arms about it, and we spoke out about it, and we were very vocal, and then come to find out that Scarlett Johansson stepped down from the role. But the thing that really got me to want to do something about it was hearing that the project wasn't really going to move forward with trying to find a new actor for the role. And we kept hearing that, well, there just aren't any, trans actors out there that are, a big name enough. And so, it got me thinking that we need to start creating a space for actors to have a safe space where they can grow and learn and focus and learn all the skills that they need to become the thing that the industry really, really wants. So we created Act Now. We started as a 4-week workshop, and then we just kept getting requests. And then it grew into a monthly class, and we haven't stopped since then, and it's been going on for 2 years. Unfortunately, we did have to stop because of the pandemic. So we've been kind of doing a few classes online. And all of my students are either trans identifying or non-binary identifying. And we work on scripts that isn't gender related or sexual orientation related. They have the power to play or choose whatever they want to bring to the table, as long as it's within their casting. That's what I like to teach. As long as it showcases the essence of who you are, and you bring that character to life because of the essence that you bring to it. And we've been really, really successful. A lot of people in LA within the community have been finding it, and I get a lot of recommendations. And we also get a lot of casting requests too. A lot of casting directors will reach out to us and say, hey, we're looking for this type of, actor, and wondering if so it's a great community. And I recently did a 1-minute film where I wrote it and I directed it, and I pretty much casted everybody from my acting class. And so it's been great because not only do actors within my community finally have a place where they can just be themselves and focus on the work and the acting, as opposed to having to do a lot of emotional labor with, a scene partner or their teacher about their identity and whatnot, because that's what I had to do. I was always the only trans person in my acting class when I first started out, and I had to do a lot of explaining and emotional labor for folks in my class. And the other thing that I discovered about it is that I actually like teaching. I actually like to teach the craft of acting, and it's so that was a nice discovery for me as an artist, because I love everything about acting. I love watching it. I watch everything. I watch film and TV. I write as well, and now in the last 2 years I've been teaching it, and it's been very fulfilling for me.
I was going to ask you that. That's so funny, because as you were talking, I wanted to pull at that thread. You wanted to pursue a career in acting, and then you were called to activism. instead you were called to create something, a safe space for your community. And I was wondering, as you were telling the story, if you felt like you lost something or you left something behind in the pursuit of creating this wonderful thing that you did, if you personally suffered for that.
No, the only thing, I'm not free on Sundays anymore because that's when our classes are. So I work on Sundays now, because during the week I have my auditions and I have, my writing and all the other jobs that I do. No, I don't think I lost anything. If anything, I gained a lot because in a way I kind of started a little small business that I actually enjoy. And so I don't have to pursue, side hustle gigs that I don't really care about. Like I don't have to Uber or Lyft. You know what I mean? Like I feel very fortunate that I created something that is good for the community and my peers, but also really good for me, for my creative health and my spiritual health, because it's something I didn't realize that I actually wanted. And no, it doesn't really affect my work as an actress. If anything, it adds to it. And what I love about it is I will go and do a job. And if it takes place on a Sunday, I'll have a substitute teacher come in. And what's been amazing is people from my community have been so willing to substitute for me. Alexandra Billings have come in to substitute. Jamie Clayton was a huge substitution for me. She's a friend of mine, and a lot of my students are huge fans of hers. And so people within my my circle of friends and community are very helpful for the cause and for the work that we're doing, because they know how important it is. And so yeah, I don't think I've lost anything. What I also love is that when I go and work, I could come back to class and talk about the work that I just did and share, because I'm not grooming actors to be the best actors in my class. I'm grooming them to go out and work. I teach them about not only the craft of an actor, but I teach them about the business aspect of it, the administration, like what you have to do, the headshots, the reels, the managers and the agents and the networking. Like we handle all that stuff as well.
And why is that so important for the transgender community, especially to make sure that they have all of that knowledge and that experience? Why is that so important for that community especially?
Well, there just isn't a blueprint in this industry to succeed. And so really it's going to have to come from people that within the industry. And for most of anything, I am that person for these kids, for these students. I am their connection to this industry. And for me, I was lucky enough that, I've worked in the industry a really long time. I worked on Transparent for 4 years, for 4 seasons. And then prior to that, I was working in post-production. So I have a network where I had learned a lot of the industry, how it works and what the kinks are and what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. So I think it's important for people who want to be in this industry to know the tricks of the trade, so to speak, and to know how to navigate it, really, to know how to mentally handle it too, because it could be, it's a tough business, and it's people think that it's one of those where you can just decide to be an actor and then it just kind of happens magically. It doesn't really work that way. I think there's a longevity aspect to it, and what I teach is the journey. I teach how to enjoy the process. I teach being in the moment and seeing this as like a longevity thing and not something that you're hoping to succeed within a year, because it doesn't really work that way. And so when they learn that, when they discover that, they're a little bit more at peace. They're a little bit more comfortable with being an artist because they know that they don't have to deliver, within a month or within 6 months. They have time to grow into their craft and to build their network and to build their credits. It's all about time here in LA. And if you don't have time for it, then then that's something you need to look into in terms of whether this is really for you.
Right. And I think that would you say, I mean, it's my thinking that the LGBTQI community has been taking care of each other. It's something you have to, as a matter of survival. So to create this acting class and this company and this community as a microcosm of that, I think is such a brilliant thing, because it's what you're used to doing. It's just taking it into a business model. And speaking of network and friends and community, a mutual friend of ours stopped by and said, it's Rain Valdez Day. So great to see you on the Social Justice Power Hour. After speaking to you at lunch on the Advocate Instagram Live, it's so great to now sit back and listen to you as a viewer. Thank you for being such an amazing inspiration for the community and beacon of light and hope.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. Hi, Amazing. It's so good to see you on here.
So
we had a chat earlier today on IG Live TV for the Advocate.
What I love about this community, she was on a few weeks ago, and she'll be back on in July, so we're thrilled about that. And I love that. I love the fact that there is so much positivity and of course, I don't want to stereotype even in a positive way, but the community seems to look out for each other so much more. So I want to bring it back though. What's it like for you to go to the rally yesterday and see thousands or tens of thousands of people across the country chanting and rallying and protesting and supporting, and then 24 hours later wake up and hear the Supreme Court, hear Chief Justice, Justice Gorsuch say that if a company fires someone for being gay or transgender, they are defying the law. Mm-hmm. What is that to you? Is that something you even imagined 5 years ago, or even a year ago, or even 6 months ago, or even freaking Friday when our administration said, hey, you know what, we're taking away this? You mentioned a roller coaster before, and I can't imagine what it's like. Can you share, where your journey took you personally, however many years back, when you were realizing who you were and where you find yourself now, both personally and in the midst of our society as a whole?
Well, yes, it has been a roller coaster ride of emotions this past week. I think, I never saw myself as an activist. I never really saw myself as someone who would be very vocally charged and passionate about the injustices that happened in our community. I just wanted to act. I just wanted to write. I just wanted to work really as an actress. That was my dream. But the more work I got and the more visible I became, the harder it was to just sit and enjoy the work when so much is going on within the community, knowing that peers and friends and trans kids and don't have the same rights and privileges that most Americans get to have in this country. And knowing that, learning about systemic racism and systemic oppression and how the system was set up so that people like me don't get to succeed, and Black trans women don't get to, walk out of their apartment or their home feeling safe. Learning that over the years was very eye-opening for me, and and I, as an Asian American trans woman, there's so many intersections that um, I cross and that I live through, and so I understand the uh, the movement. I understand the work ahead that we need to be done, and we also have accomplished so much, really, as a community. Like there is a lot for us to be grateful for, and there is a lot for us to celebrate. And there's so many people before me and before this time that has done so much work. During Stonewall with Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, they've paved the way for women like me to be here today. And so a lot of work has been going on for a very long time now, and for me, it's sort of like passing of the torch. It's passing of the torch of like, the trans woman, at my age and at this place of platform and privilege and social media where we can stand up and take on the torch and take the movement forward. Because you're right, it's not a moment, it's been a movement that's been going on for decades, and it's going to keep going on until true gender equality actually exists, which I don't know that will happen in the next few years. Might take a little longer than that, but we are putting in the work, and we're getting wins here and there, and we're constantly getting obstacles thrown at us. This isn't the first, Friday isn't the first obstacle that was thrown at us. It won't be the last. And which is why, like I said earlier, today is a rest day, because I know that more obstacles are going to come out of nowhere. Trans people, the community, are the most targeted group because we're the most marginalized, we're the most vulnerable. And so whenever there's spikes, positive spikes, like Black Lives Matter particularly, I don't think this administration saw thought that this would be a nationwide, a global sensation, like a global movement, and people protesting in every city, small and big. I don't think they saw that. And so I think it was strategic on their behalf to be, okay, well, let's target, the most marginalized of them all, which is the trans community. It's a distraction. It's a divide and conquer strategy. It's colonization. It's how they've operated for many, many years. It's very systemic. So I think for us, the work that we have to do is remember that the infighting and the bullying and the dividing of within our communities is exactly what they want. They're counting on us to sort of fight over which movement matters most, and they're counting on white people and cisgender people's complacency in the matters, and seeing us as othered, seeing us as oh, well, that's not me. That's, kind of disassociating themselves from our community so that they don't actually vote for us. So that's what they're counting on. They're counting on fears. And so, for me, where I'm at is I'm just this is a part of my life. I'm an actress, I'm a filmmaker, but there are times when I'm going to have to activate. There are times when I'm going to have to speak up. There are times when I'm going to have to protest. There are times when I'm going to spend the whole day sending emails and making phone calls, which, we were doing after the George Floyd lynching that happened. And so I'm doing it because, again, the intersection, like I'm not a Black trans woman, but I know so many, and I've been loved by them. I've been entertained by them. I've been cared for by them. And I know their lived experiences from what I see and from our friendships. And so and the intersection of it too is that as an Asian American, I don't know that I would have the certain kind of privileges if it weren't for the suffering of the Black community. So for me, I have to do my part, not only for the privileges that I have, but also needing to dismantle some of the hypocrisies within my own Asian culture. In the Philippines, the whitening lotions and whitening creams is a huge industry, because the whiter you are, the more desirable you are. And so white supremacy is so ingrained in so many different cultures and so many different communities in various ways. And so we have to dismantle that as well in order to be 100% all Black Lives Matter. So there's so much work ahead. I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, we appreciate the work you're doing, and I really appreciate how much you are embracing it and you're making it part of who you are, and it's not letting you distract from your career as well. And let's go into something, let's have a little more fun for a moment. Cynthia asks, what role do you long to play? In Pren, she says, I think you would make a great Anita from West Side Story.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, that would be a dream role for sure. I've been wanting to be in a rom-com, in a romantic comedy. Growing up, I kind of saw myself as a Julia Roberts or a Sandra Bullock. I mean, who didn't see themselves as those women? And so, yeah, that's kind of been a dream role for me, is to play a romantic lead in a big budget rom-com, which I'm hoping to actually create for myself. I have a few scripts in that genre. And last month for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, we did a Zoom live reading for charity of one of my scripts called Relive, A Tale of an American Island Cheerleader, about a successful Asian American trans woman who goes back home because of her dying mother, but then comes to find that it's her high school reunion happening at the same time. But her high school reunion reveals itself to be like a do-over week, where she gets to go back and do over her high school for a week. And she goes back to try out to be the cheerleader she always wanted to be. And then she falls in love, in her home island. And it's a really fun script. We got some great feedback from the reading, and we're hoping to kind of get that made at some point when we're allowed to get back to work after this pandemic. But that would be a dream role of mine, is to play a romantic lead.
So but even that in and of itself leads itself to consideration into being somewhat problematic, because trans folks haven't been given that opportunity yet. So how do we find that opening? Who is it simply enough a trailblazer like yourself or like someone else who takes a role, is successful? I mean, is it money? Is that the bottom line? If someone was to star in a romantic comedy who was transgender, it was successful, would that be enough? Or would it take more? Because we're not only overcoming an uncomfortable feeling that folks have, unfortunately, but there's also an inherent fear. There's a confusion. And I think, and I've always thought personally that it's people who aren't comfortable in their own identity lashing out at others. And it's an easy target because they know they can find others who will support them in their hatred, in their ignorance, and in their fear. And then they can mask their own fear, their own insecurities by, spotlighting others.
Yeah, great points. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Romantic comedies are propaganda for who gets to be loved. If you've watched all of the rom-coms that have been made, like I've watched them all, they're all white, they're all cisgender, they're all successful and gorgeous. And and they're all American. And so it's again going back to systemic oppression. It's telling the world that that these are the types of people who actually gets to be loved. And so for, you know, a huge part of my childhood, I was told, because of my skin color, because of my race, and because of where I'm from, I don't get to have that kind of love. And because of my gender identity, I don't get to have that kind of love. I will always be the butt of the joke for the rest of my life. I will always be vilified for the rest of my life, because that's what film and TV has shown me. So it is going to take someone in the industry to take a huge risk, to take a huge financial risk, and cast someone like me or another trans actress who doesn't have much of a big name and put them in a big box office romantic comedy lead. Or it's going to take someone like myself to independently produce it and get it made, get it screened at a huge festival like Sundance or Tribeca or whatever, and then have it get bought by Netflix or by some huge studio and want to distribute it. So there are many ways to go about it. And it's this, you know, once we go back to work after we're able to from the pandemic, it's going to be a very telltale sign of how this industry makes its decisions. And I'm hoping and praying, because we've been consuming so much content, you know, all kinds of cultural content, different types of cultured content, that everyone's going to be looking at the numbers and seeing that we actually need more diversity in the content that they're making, and we'll start to actually make those projects that have existed. I mean, I've read so many scripts that are very diverse and that are very LGBTQ, you know, inclusive and very women led. And so I'm hoping that the industry will finally wake up to the need of the kind of content that we've been hungry for so long. But a part of me too, though, this is so funny. A part of me too, though, is that that they don't wake up to it, and that I just you know, kind of miraculously are able to make it myself, so that they can see. Because I feel like this industry sometimes is, if they don't know what they can't see. Does that make sense? Right. Then they don't know that it works. They don't know that it exists, and that's kind of how. That's kind of what gatekeeping is all about. What white people have been doing for many years in this industry is holding us back from making the kind of content, because they, and you kind of said it earlier, they don't see themselves in those stories. But I'm a firm believer that my story, regardless of my experience as an Asian American trans woman, I firmly believe that my story is actually pretty universal. It's not niche, because it's a human story. It's a human experience. It's you know, and just because it's an Asian American trans woman playing it, that doesn't mean a white cisgender person can't relate to it.
How did you find growing up? It seems like it must have been difficult for you not to see yourself, though, represented on screen, on the pages of a book, on television, movies, et cetera, et cetera. There was such a limited amount of folks that you could relate to, that you could see yourself in. Was that difficult not to have that representation? And we see it better now. You know, I want to give a shout out to our mutual friend Alex Schmitter, who introduced us from GLAAD, who, you know, and I thank you so much, Alex, because I'm loving this conversation. But also Alex is someone who now his very job is to make sure that there's representation for all on screen. But as you were growing up, there wasn't an Alex Schmitter. So was that something that was a void for you, that you weren't able to see yourself, and then you weren't able to find models for you to grow and to evolve who you were.
Yeah, I mean, it was both advantageous and disadvantageous for me, not having that representation. Advantageous because I was able to see myself in other aspects of the art. You know, I saw myself as a cross between Whoopi Goldberg and Michelle Pfeiffer, because Michelle Pfeiffer had this intensity, she had this sexuality, and then Whoopi Goldberg had this humor and this physicality, and this you know, gorgeous skin color, which isn't mine, but her attitude and her personality was something that I related to, and I wanted to see more of, and I wanted to be also. So I was able to see myself in a lot of women, and it actually made me you know, realize that women will always be you know, my number one champions. And it wasn't really until I moved out to LA where I realized that I wasn't going to become the kind of actress I wanted to be, because people weren't making Asian American trans actresses. They weren't making them. They weren't casting them. They weren't hiring them. And that's when I realized that I didn't really see myself exist in the world that I wanted to be in. I kind of adopted certain, you know, ideologies based on what I was exposed to, and which isn't a bad thing, but it also made me realize there was so much to unlearn, you know, to actually do the work to be who I am today. And that's kind of where it gets really tricky to be a trans woman, you know, at this day and age, especially when I first started out. Is, you know, people, the advice that I was getting when I first got to LA, from a lot of people, from close friends, from loved ones, and from people in this industry was, well, just don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, and you'll have a better life because of it. So I didn't for a very long time, and this is called living stealth within our community. I didn't disclose my gender identity, my gender history, for many years, working in the industry as an actress, going to acting school and working in post-production, waiting tables, modeling. And, you know, I got into relationships as well, not disclosing right away. And, you know, it got really, really hard living that way. And I wasn't operating 100%. Because I was always hiding something. I was always revising some form of truth about who I was or about my experience. And it got to a point, after doing that for about 10 years, it got to a point where it got really, really exhausting. And, you know, I thought that it was thank God I came to this thought, because I came to a moment where I was like, there has got to be a better way to live. There just got to be. Like, I can't for the rest of my life live this way, hiding my truth. But for a long time, I did think that I was going to take it to my grave. And then luckily, something happened. I got laid off from my job, and saw Transparent on TV, and said to myself, those are the people I want to work with. People who know about trans people who care about trans people who want to uplift trans people, and nurture them. And so I reached out, sent in my resume, and I got an email right away. They were looking for trans people who actually had experience in the industry, which I did have. And within a month, I got an interview, and I didn't get the first job that I interviewed for, but then they kept bringing me back for other roles, and eventually became part of the Transparent family. And that was my community. That became my LGBTQ community, because I didn't have it prior to Transparent. I was definitely alone in my experience. I mean, I had LGBTQ allies and friends, but it was always in secret. It was always in hiding. And now my whole world has collided together. The worlds that I have separated, my community and my heteronormative life that I created are finally together, and it's been such a joyous experience to live that way, because it is so much easier. And I didn't know this, prior to coming out as a trans woman. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be really hard, but that's the work I had to do. That's all the stuff that I had to unlearn. In a way, perpetuating my own inner transphobia. I had to work on that stuff. And that's how deep rooted white supremacy is. That's how deep rooted patriarchy is that even you yourself start to believe what everybody tells you, what everybody, when people tell you you're not good enough, when people tell you that trans people are villains, you end up believing that, and you end up not wanting to tell people that that's who you are, because you don't want to be that. You don't want to be othered. You don't want to be a villain. And so for me, I didn't know for a long time that I could claim who I am and change the narrative. And that's kind of where I have been in the past maybe 5 years or so, is let's change the narrative that's been told over and over again about trans people. Because first of all, it wasn't told by us. And secondly, it is not by any means true or, define who I am as a person.
And you've created that. So you were talking about earlier living stealth, and what that means is just, staying under the radar, not letting people know who you are, and what your journey's been. And now you're creating that exact opposite safe space for your fellow actors and actresses, to allow them that room to breathe, allow them that safety to come out in whatever identity and whatever they want to present, but knowing that they're safe in whatever they do want to do. And you're creating that opportunity that you never had, that was so, as you said, inherent in what you saw and what you were led to believe. Let me ask you this. Do you find the joy in that? Can you feel how incredibly important what you're doing is? Do you allow yourself to acknowledge that?
I do. Yes. Thank you. Whenever I'm in my acting class, and it's been a long time because of coronavirus, but every Sunday when I got to teach, I would walk out of it feeling very inspired and feeling like I did something very important, because even though they're learning, I learn a lot myself. And I don't want anyone to have to go through the experiences I've had to go through, or live in fear the way I've had to live in fear. Go to an acting class not knowing if someone's going to find out, not knowing if someone's going to say something, or not knowing if I'm going to get kicked out. I don't want anyone to have to feel that way. I don't want anyone to have to watch TV and not see themselves represented, and not knowing where to find it. I want them to understand that they can actually create that for themselves, and they can create it for future generations. So it's something that I had to learn, and it's nice that I get to teach it as well, and I get to put it in my art, and I get to talk about it, and I get to share my experiences, because we can't. The great thing about this movement, and why it's been going on for decades, which people and the media would love to shove it under the rug and not let the world know what's really been going on, but it has been going on for decades. And the reason why it keeps going, and the reason why it's still here, is that we don't do it alone. We hold each other very, very close. We check in on each other. We have each other's backs. You know, I'm not the only one that's creating space, and that makes me feel good is because, and it makes me feel held because we're all doing our parts to create a better future for all of us. I'm doing my part, and you know, Alex is doing his part, and you know, and it just makes it so much fun and so much more easier and so much more worthwhile when you have other people in the community having your back.
So you answered two of my questions in such an interesting way earlier in the hour and just now, and I want to spotlight those two things. I think they're really important, and they're one of them I hadn't heard before. I asked you about representation and seeing yourself on screen. Whereas we've had a lot of folks in the show who have talked about that and how difficult that was for them. And you took it to a positive place. You said that allowed you the freedom to imagine what you could be. I love that. I just want to spotlight that because our time is coming to a close, and I'm sad about that. It's been a very quick hour, and it's been wonderful. But I want to spotlight those two things, what you said about, and forgive me, I want to make sure that I understood what you said. By not seeing yourself on screen, it gave you the freedom to imagine what you could be.
Absolutely. I created it in my head for myself, and then came to LA, and took me a minute to figure it out. But then which is why I'm a writer, and which is why I'm a filmmaker, is because I have this idea of what representation looks like for me. It doesn't exist. So you know what? I'm going to create it for myself. And, you know, which is why I think isolation and quarantine has been good for me these past few months, because I'm no stranger to it. I grew up isolated in Guam. I kind of grew up not having very many allies. And because of that, I had to really rely on my creativity. I had to really rely on my imagination in order to survive. I relied on, you know, Disney movies and rom-coms, and I imagined that those were me. And what people don't understand too is these movies and these shows that you know, especially Disney movies like Frozen and The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, all of those films are about identity. And so any trans person is going to see that movie and see a little bit of themselves in it, because it's about who they are. And so we haven't been represented, but people have been telling our stories for a very long time now. It's just up to us to kind of really see through, you know, the whiteness, see through the biases and really see what the world is trying to tell us. And so for me, it was art that allowed me to see something in myself and then go and create it in a way that I can, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, and I think it's a wonderful way to end the evening tonight. That's such a brilliant and powerful, and I think really inspiring way for our community to see that a lack of representation can become a strength, and you've created a whole platform from that. And we thank you. Not only you did it for yourself, but in doing that, you created this space with the acting community and with the production company and with all those things that you've done. And now telling your story here has allowed us to be party to it. And we cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this power hour.
Thank you. And you just dropped something incredibly interesting, which I want to pursue, but it's after 8 o'clock already. You talked about growing up in Guam and what that was like. So I would invite you, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but I want you to know that we would love to have you back and talk about that part of your journey and what it was like for you as you were growing up and what that meant to you, you know, finding who you were and discovering yourself. So know that you're welcome to come back and tell that story, because we'd love to hear it sometime.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We wish you the best. If there's any way that the center could be of service in what you're doing, please do let us know. Say to our friends who we know mutually, which I'm so thrilled about, and we'll see you soon and look forward to all that you'll do. We look forward to seeing you on the screen as well.
Thank you, Robert. This has been such a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Will you do me a favor? I'm going to say goodnight to our folks. Will you hang out just for a minute so I can say goodnight to you personally?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the night. Thank you, everybody. And gosh, what a wonderful evening to find a question we've asked before and hear a very different take on it, a very positive take on it that we can all take away and help us in our journeys, no matter where we are. So thank you, Rain, so much for that. We really do appreciate it. It was really a wonderful evening and a perfect capper to a great 24 hours, which has been a rarity in the past few months, past few years, past few decades. But the wonderful rallies yesterday with Black Trans Lives Matter, and today with the Supreme Court with that really huge surprise in supporting our community. This has been a wonderful night to celebrate that and hear this story. So glad you could all join us. I want to, of course, invite you back every night. We have these stories to tell. We have these extraordinary folks to share their time. Tomorrow night is our queer yoga, of course, and I want to leave you with this invitation from Master Jasmani. Have a great night, everybody.
Hola, soy Jasmani, el profesor de yoga en el BRCSJ Center, y puedes encontrarme cada martes a las 7 de la noche en la página de Facebook. Bye.